breaking in the Middle East. The war has just escalated after United States forces intercepted and seized an Iranian-flagged ship in a direct action at sea, opening a new phase of confrontation with the Iranian regime. This Monday, April 20, 2026, what happened was clear. Washington decided to show strength at a time when the Strait of Hormuz remains at the center of the global crisis, and Tehran responded with threats of retaliation. At the center of this are the United States Navy, Iran's Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps, and the political leadership on both sides. Where did this happen? In the area between the Arabian Sea, the Gulf of Oman, and the route that leads to the Iranian port of Bandar Abbas, one of the most sensitive points on the planet for energy and trade. According to the United States Central Command, the destroyer USS Spruance intercepted the ship Tosca as it was heading to an Iranian port. The ship received warnings for about 6 hours, and since it did not comply, the American military ordered the evacuation of the engine room and opened fire to disable the propulsion. After that, Marines boarded and took control of the freighter. How was this done? With prior warning, disabling shots, and a military boarding. Why? Because in the official American version, the ship was violating the naval blockade imposed on Iranian ports. This point is central because it's no longer just about threats or tough talk. Now there has been concrete action, real gunfire, and the ship being taken into American custody. This episode didn't come out of nowhere. On April 13th, CENTCOM itself announced that it would begin blocking maritime traffic, de entrada e saída dos portos do Irã. Before that, on April 11th, the United States had already started operations to clear mines in the Strait of Hormuz, stating that they wanted to safely reopen the commercial passage. In other words, the escalation was being built up step by step. First came the military preparation, then the blockade, then the route control, and now the seizure of a ship. This shows how the crisis has ceased to be merely diplomatic. An open dispute over who controls the most strategic maritime corridor in the region. On the Iranian side, the response came in an aggressive tone. Reuters reported that Tehran promised to retaliate and said the ship was coming from China. At the same time, the second round of negotiations planned to take place in Pakistan was cast into doubt. Reuters itself reported that Iran said it would not participate in the new round of talks. Meanwhile, the Associated Press highlighted that the ceasefire atmosphere was shaken and that the dialogue announced by Trump was highly uncertain. When? This happens exactly at a time when the diplomatic window seemed fragile and short. That's why the clash at sea matters so much. It not only escalates the war, it could also undermine the last attempt at political restraint before a new round of attacks. Another fact underscores how serious the problem is. On Saturday, the British agency UKMTO reported that an oil tanker was fired upon by 2 boats linked to the Revolutionary Guard near Oman. And there was also a report of a container ship hit by an unknown projectile. This helps to understand how the escalation was building up at sea before the seizure of the Tosca. It's not an isolated incident, but a sequence of pressure on navigation, blockade, threat, and military response. How did things get this far? Because of the combination of the American blockade, Iran's hardening stance, and the failure to turn the truce into a stable agreement, the message is stark. The United States is showing that it intends to maintain the blockade and impose real costs on any attempt to break it. Meanwhile, the Iranian regime tries to present itself as reacting firmly, but it's entering extremely dangerous territory because every new move at sea could become a pretext for a bigger attack. A harsher response and the definitive collapse of the talks. The central question is simple. Is the Iranian regime keeping things under control or losing control? The most recent facts point to a total loss of control over the situation. This matters because when a pressured power structure decides to mess with the planet's main energy artery, the result is usually brutal. What's at stake is not just a dispute involving Tehran, and it's the stability of Hormuz, the global cost of energy, the safety of civilian ships, and the future of an Iranian population that already bears the weight of war, repression, and fear. If this route continues to be used as a political weapon, the next step could be even harsher and much broader. In fact, in the United States, there is already talk of a ground invasion of Iran to contain this Iranian threat.